the job.
Let me ask you, Matthew, again, if looking at these polls, there are two more that I want to show you and get your response. The first is the number of people who regret the collapse of the Soviet Union. You remember Putin very famously once said this was the greatest disaster of the 20th century. Well, look at the number of Russians who agree. 58% of Russians still believe that the collapse of the Soviet Union was a mistake or they regret its decline. And then this final one, which strikes me as very interesting. So they asked Russians, do you believe Russia has an enemy? And of the ones who said they thought Russia had an enemy, 22% believed it was the United States in 1999. And now it's 68% think it's the United States. So my question to you, Matthew, is Russia now, of a mood that they wish they were the kind of great power they were in the days of the Cold War? And do they really want to stand up to the United States very specifically?
Well, I think one of the things that Putin has done is give Russians back a sense of their national pride, which they lost so dramatically and suddenly, really, when you think about how suddenly the Soviet Union collapsed, back when that massive geopolitical event took place. I mean, Russians were, on an equal footing in their minds, at least, with the United States, and they were suddenly reduced to an impoverished nation that had to go cap in hand, looking for food even from other countries. It was a deeply humiliating experience for many Russians that fell off that perch. And, they clung on. They have clung on to Vladimir Putin as their leader who can give them their pride back. And that's perhaps been one of the main reasons for his enduring popularity today, that he has given Russians back their sense of pride. And I think we shouldn't dismiss that. It's an incredibly important factor in this election and in Putin's popularity in general. In terms of Russia's response, or Russia's attitude towards the United States. There was a moment when Donald Trump was the candidate, when he was elected president of the US, when Russians really believed, after years of being, kind of jostled around and being, disrespected, I suppose they would see it, by the Obama administration and those earlier, that they thought the situation was going to turn around. They had really high hopes that Donald Trump was the president who was going to see the world from their point of view. And so they've been immensely disappointed in the past year and a half or so, since the Trump presidency began, that did not happen. And I think that when your hopes are high and then they're unfulfilled, your disappointment is greater. And I think that's probably why we're seeing those heightened figures that the United States is perceived as the enemy.